So as people know, there are a lot of bears here, and something I've noticed enough times that it's a pattern is that if I get mad at the bears, they will get mad at each other. So the other night, I just got tired of having bears hanging around and banging on the windows. So I went out and yelled at them, and they ignored me. And I went and yelled at them again, they ignored me. I yelled at them again, they ignored me. And after like 5 times of yelling at them, I took out some pepper spray and said, get off my lawn, get off my porch. And I sprayed out the pepper spray, and they ran away. But the point is that the next time they came back, which was a couple hours later, I stepped out onto the porch, not even to yell at them, just to like say hi to them. And 2 of them started fighting with each other. And the thing I find really interesting, and this has happened multiple times, and the thing I find really interesting about this is how across species, it's not just, I mean, we know this happens in a family, that, you know, the family consists of Andy, Brian, Kathy, and Deborah, and ABCD. Clever, huh? Anyway, the family consists of those 4, and Andy is in a terrible mood. Well, it's quite possible that Kathy and Deborah are going to get in a fight because everybody gets more tense. And the thing that I think is really interesting is that I've witnessed this on interspecies level with wild animals, that because I'm in a pissy mood, then they start getting pissy with each other. I just think that's really, okay, A, it's fascinating, and B, it leads to something else that I've thought about for years, which is people talk a lot about, they attempt to study non-human behavior. And I think that this is like in the wild. And I think that in many ways, this is completely nuts. And the reason I think this is completely nuts, yeah, sure, you can study them, but don't pretend it actually means anything. And the reason don't pretend it means anything is because we're systematically traumatizing non-humans everywhere. So there is not a non-human on the planet who is still acting as it would under non-stressed situations. So basically what we're doing is we are studying baboons or gorillas or chimpanzees or squirrels, it doesn't matter what, and pretending that that means anything about non-stressed conditions. That would be like studying people in prison or studying in World War II, you know, Russian peasants who are fleeing the onslaught of the Nazi, of the Wehrmacht, the German army, as they're fleeing, and then you see how they behave with each other. You study that and then presume that has anything to do with normal human behavior in a healthy functioning community. And it's just, I mean, all it took for them to fight each other, when I went out there and was yelling at them in the first place, well, I was yelling at them because they were ripping apart the house, but they were doing that playing. The point is they weren't mad, but me getting mad at them made them mad at each other. And I just find it, I find it, you know, one of my big things is that non-humans have personalities. They're not beast machines who just react. Instead, I mean, there's a bear I call the polite bear. There's a bear that does 80% of the damage to the house. And it's just like in human society where one, you know, I've heard many police and other people say that basically 10% of people cause 90% of the problems. And it's the same with the bears. There's one bear in particular who's caused probably 80% of the damage to the house. And so the point is that there are multiple points. One, they're just other beings who have personalities of their own. Two, it's sort of Schrodinger's cat, you know? What we do actually does affect others. They're not beast machines who don't get their feelings hurt and don't get pissy. And C, the entire world is being traumatized. And D, I think it's kind of stupid that we presume that any studies we do of their behavior have anything to do with how they would act normally. And E, we all need to recognize we're parts of many larger communities, and stop acting like our behavior doesn't matter. I don't actually think it's a big deal that I chased away the bears. I mean, I'm allowed to have boundaries too. But what I do think is a big deal is that I somehow feel superior, like this is my land and not their land too. I think there are 2 points to make here. One of them is that I believe we should extend our understanding of family to encompass the non-humans with whom we share our home and neighborhood, and recognize that our actions and behaviors and attitudes affect them just as they affect our human family members. And then the other point is that we affect everyone, whether we know we're interacting with them or not. That if you are walking down the street, your mood can affect the moods of others. And we've all seen this. Somebody's walking down the street and they give us a dirty look for no reason. It's like, that can affect us for the next little bit. And I remember seeing a public service advertisement once about the importance of being nice to each other. And it just was some kids in a junior high school where a group of kids at a locker, one of them randomly says to somebody walking down the hall, "Hi, how are you doing?" And then that person says hi, she sparkles up, and then she says hi to a couple of junior high boys coming out of a classroom, and then that improves their day. And the point was, it's a really sweet little sappy PSA, but I think that that's true on the larger scale, both with good moods and bad moods, and with behaviors. We go out and take a chainsaw out of the forest. How is that going to affect everybody who lives there? Or we go out, I don't want to get all woo-woo with, if we just walk around with a happy face all the time, then that's going to make the world a better place. But I think it's important to keep in mind the effects of our behavior on others, which is something obviously we don't attend to hardly at all.